All right, welcome to Health Second Opinion. Dr. Chad McDill here with you, excited about another week of bringing some truth and some answers to a lot of questions. And the title this week, Dis-ease, very different disease. And I was blessed today to get to be a speaker at the high school and reminded that, yep, take that off now. And went to get to speak to the health classes and some of the intro to anatomy and physiology. And what a great opportunity to talk about this thing that we call health and the thing that we call disease, and the difference between the two, and what creates disease. And I say create very intentionally, in that diseases aren't something you catch, they're something you create. And so, so many people today, we want to be able to put the blame somewhere else, doctor, or our DNA, our parents. Disease just runs in my family. But, the if diabetes runs in your family and cardiovascular disease runs in your family, then probably nobody runs in your family. And so when we think about really the fact that, it's October, and you wouldn't know it from the fact of any Susan G. Komen or cancer campaigns or any of these things, because of the overshadowing of this viral infection that's taken the world by storm. And there is a reason it's so bad. There is a reason it's worse in this country. There is a reason, though, that we lost 608,000 people to cancer last year, but we only lost 312 to COVID. And I'm not saying, I shouldn't have said only. I mean, goodness. How many, 300,000 people, and the lives that they touch, is magnified at least by 4. So when we think about the devastation, yes, it is true. It is real, and it is affecting our society. But the majority of those people did not need to pass away. And the reason I say that is that the failure, and the reason that they passed away, and the failure lies in the system itself. It is that we don't really have a healthcare system. We have a sick care system. And let's just talk about, am I right? I want to put that to bed so that we can get on with fixing it. And that is, let's talk about some of the stats of our children. Highest infant mortality rates of any of the industrialized worlds. In the industrialized world, we have the highest infant mortality rates. We have the highest maternal mortality rates. We have half of children with at least one chronic disease diagnosis. Pediatric cancer is the leading cause of death after accidents. 1 in 7 children are on an anti-psych drug. 1 in 6 are learning disabled. 1 in 12 with asthma. 1 in 5 diagnosed with an emotional, mental, or behavioral disorder. 1 in 5 with obesity. 1 in 13 with allergies. 1 in 59 on the autism spectrum disorder nationwide, and 1 in 34 in some areas on the autism spectrum. So under the watchful eye of our current healthcare system being led by the CDC, the rubber stamping, what we should be doing on the state and local levels. Here we are. This is the proof in the pudding. The fact is that now at least 42.5% of the American population is considered obese. And we're looking at these stats, and then we say that we wonder why, with 40-some percent being obese, 42%, and then looking at the rates of, there's like 1.9 million new cancer diagnoses this year, and 600,000 people over that will die this year, with like 690 something thousand dying from cardiovascular disease, and another 100 and something thousand dying from the complications of diabetes directly. And then the fact that obesity and diabetes play a role in the cancer and the cardiovascular disease deaths, but also account for their own percentages over and above. So we are all under the understanding that it is the comorbidities that exist, and it is the sickness that is already in the individual. How weak the individual is determines the outcomes of that person will experience from this infection or anything else. You know, one of the things I brought up to the classes today were that, you know, health isn't something that someone can give to you. It is not the Neosporin that heals the cut. It is not the antibiotic that does the healing. It is not the, you know, chemo that cures cancer. Ask an oncologist. They'll tell you the only thing, just like the chiropractor will, that can heal the body is the body itself. And that's why we have the saying, the power made the body heals the body. And the fact is that the only thing that healing is a misunderstanding in America. Healing, maybe worldwide, healing is not the knitting together of the dying cell. It is not the dying cell that heals. That cell, the healing is the formation of new cells. It is new life. It is the fact that your body creates new cells to replace the old cells. But the reality is that it's supposed to be doing it on a cycle at all times. You know, your body is constantly in a regeneration schedule. Your blood is brand new every 120 days. Your bones, the living osteoblasts, have been recycled in about 7 years. Your liver's brand new, the living cells in a couple of years. And so we're on this regeneration schedule, and the body needs no help. It needs less interference. And so the power within you, your innate intelligence, your soul, whatever you would like to call it, it will run your body and does so through the nervous system. Your subconscious brain is aware of every need and is making changes to physiology that it can under the circumstances of the environment you put it in. And it is that environment that you put it in that determines how well it will succeed at that regeneration. And so, pardon me right here for a moment. Let me get this door open a little more so that the I'm getting a sign saying that my internet signal, in which we're hooked up Wi-Fi here, is failing. And so we want this to be able to stream to its destinations. And so I think that brings up the exact topic of what is the connection, the main thing that controls and coordinates every other physiological process in the human body. What is the part of the body that runs the rest of the body? And that is the nervous system. And we don't have multiple parts. It's not the central and the peripheral and the autonomic. Your body, it's just a nervous system. It's using all the parts to run itself. We simply do that so that we can study it in smaller chunks and maybe, you know, name it better. So it makes it easier on the study thereof. There's only one nerve system in the body. And it uses that system, that brain-body connection, and it is our Wi-Fi. It is our internet. It's what's running that connection. And so it's what's running everything else. And without that connection, just like this computer would not be, you know, would be worthless without power and a connection to the internet. Other than that, it's just a glorified calculator. And so the reality is that for our bodies to run properly, we need a properly functioning spine and nervous system to surround and protect, or the spine, the 24 movable bones, to surround and protect that nerve system on the inside. And that is the only reason for chiropractic, is the restoration and maintenance of the structure that surrounds and protects the nerve system. And then you have groups of us who have moved on into trying to deal with the causes of dis-ease. The chief cause being a lack of synchronization of the body through the nervous system i.e. subluxation, and that those misalignments that choke off the life force connection or create blind spots to the brain from the research of Heidi Havoc out at the University of New Zealand, New Zealand chiropractic, and her research showing how there are really subluxations, the breakdown of communication in the body creates blind spots to where there are parts of the organ that aren't under exact millisecond control of the nervous system. And so, wow, doesn't that make sense? Because I think when we look at what causes a breakdown in our health, it really can be surmised into three things: a deficiency, a toxicity, or a loss of control. If any of those things exist for long enough, there will be a breakdown in the regeneration of the body, the control of the body, and things are allowed to happen. Because the difference between, in which we have all been highlighted here, I think there's never been a better time for chiropractic to speak up and stand out and show out in the results that we get with our patients than now. Why? Because on the world stage, we are seeing that the same virus globally is causing different results in different people. And it illuminates, shines the light upon the difference between those people isn't just age, it's the number of comorbidities, whether diagnosed or underlying. Because some people's, just like they'd say maybe, I don't know how many million, I forget now, how many diabetics there are in the United States, but yet they say, hey, there's probably 3 times at least that many that are undiagnosed and or pre-diabetic. They're going to be diabetic soon. And so when we look at those numbers, we can say that it illuminates, again, there's an underlying problem that we're not aware of, but it is still a comorbidity and it's there. And when coming in contact with this virus, it then puts you over a threshold, if you're in that window, where you fall into the 0.25% of people who pass away and are not able to mount a good enough immune system response to or their body is cast into some other form of cardiovascular events or respiratory events or whatever those things are. And it is the difference in the person and in the immune systems, because the virulence factor of each of those things, of the different, whether it's Delta or original strain or whatever it is, those are pretty constant. And then it becomes about the terrain and not the seed. It's the soil in which that virus or bacteria lands upon that determines whether or not it has a niche to exploit. And once in the body, if the niche is great enough, then it will fill that niche. And the bigger that niche is, the worse it drives up for homeostasis, thus allowing the failure of the body to happen. And so the idea really is to minimize the niche by driving the body in true health care towards 100% function, which is the definition of health. Optimum physical, mental, and social well-being, not the absence of disease or infirmity. And when we think about these things, then it becomes more about real health care, which is not what we have in America. Thank God for our sick care system and the surgeons and the doctors and the hospitals, and thank you for your service. But yet at the same time, we are seeing that, especially in this, that there's a lot that really can't be done. It's just try to keep the needs minimal, maybe supply oxygen, and if not, then what happens is about kind of the protocols that are being done nationwide. Experienced it firsthand with my mom. Had to go get her from the hospital. There was nothing they could do, so why should she be there? And so we went and got her out, took her home where we could actually do something. And that is to supply the needs of the body and provide her the things that the body needs to maintain its health, and that is to minimize toxicities, to minimize deficiencies, and to optimize the control of her body. So we did the same thing we do for anyone. We said, okay, most often in an immune system challenge, there are certain vitamins and minerals which are necessary to activate white blood cell activity. And there's certain nutrition that you need to know about to avoid toxicity that will suppress the immune system. So we'll provide you your nutrition that way. We will make sure and keep you moving and keep your lungs functioning and putting a demand on them there. And we will provide you with hydration. And we will then connect you and make sure that you're connected by getting you adjusted, removing any in nervous system interference to the best that you can in a 77-year-old person who has had some degeneration. And optimizing those things is why she's still with us. And thank God for that. And that we were able to implement things to where she was able to stay the course long enough to where her body was able to mount that immune system response to where her white blood cell activity and the antibodies produced by the B cells were able to win the battle against the virus. And so anyone who's still breathing after infection with anything has won. And they will have produced B cells. Now, why is it that the natural immunity, after studies of approximately a review of 90 some studies, they're saying now that the natural immunity is equal to, if not greater than, the artificial immunity, and that it is so robust and it's actually broader than, is due to the fact that the spike protein is 3,500 nucleotides long, but the virus is approximately 33,000 nucleotides long. And so when a person comes in contact with it naturally and it's chewed up and gobbled up, and they have the health to sustain themselves long enough to mount that white blood cell activity, then it's all chewed up, all 33,000 nucleotides. And then it's all processed back to the immune system. And there is the opportunity for the immune system to create antibodies to those different chunks, possibly all 33,000 nucleotides. Therefore, there are different angles to which, instead of the antibody response being designed to one 3,500 nucleotide chunk. So if we think, the spike protein is the most important and one of the bigger proteins that's inside of this viral genome, then that leaves, roughly 19,500 nucleotide long pieces that could have been chewed up in different amounts that then antibodies could be formed to, thus explaining why it is explained to be robust. It is a bigger, broader spectrum type of immunity. And we must understand that to step back and say, this is something else, like cancer, even though it's October and you wouldn't know it due to the no Susan G. Komen and the no whatever. And like I said earlier, that we lost double the cancer last year than we did with COVID, but yet it's not out there. But it is the same parts of the immune system that the white blood cell activity, the LAC cells, the lymphocyte activated killer cells, and the NK cells, the natural killer cells, that are the specific parts that then go out and target cancer. And we have to get back to what cancer really is. It's not something that you catch. It's not, I don't cough on you if I have cancer and I come into your space and I cough all over you, even if I have lung cancer. And I literally spew all over you. I'm not going to give you cancer. It's not how it happens. Cancer is any group of cells growing out of control with synchronization of the body, no longer in coordination with the tissue in which they start, that can invade surrounding tissues and spread to other parts of the body through the lymph or through the blood. So That being said, it is your body that it becomes out of control. It is necessary to become aware of the main things. And, most commonly people were very aware of the things that are denied or were denied for, 30, 40 years. I think that, tobacco doesn't cause cancer. The whole tobacco industry, camels are safer for pregnant women and better, your doctor recommends. And, some of us are still old enough to remember those commercials. And so we see that science becomes aware and society permits certain knowledge to be allowed out, and then some are shut down and some ideas are shut down. But in the end, truth always prevails, and so it will too here. In that, we must get back to providing real health care for America, in which we then say it is about the environment, whether we're talking about cancer or whether we're talking about infection or anything. It is about the host immunity. And thank God for that, because that's what we have control over in our choices. And so minimizing the interference to the expression of our life force and the regeneration of our body, thus is our job. And it is not only our job, it is our responsibility. It's not my job as the chiropractor to do or provide health for anyone. They already have it. What we need to do is remove the interference to it, number one, by removing interference to the nervous system so that all other parts can be coordinated and controlled by the subconscious brain, utilizing the nervous system to control that physiology, to optimize its function. Then, secondly, to provide information that can change the mindset of the paradigm of, and going into this terrain theory as it was developed from Béchamp back in the 1860s when Pasteur was developing the germ theory, in which it's about building up the host so that just like if I dropped a seed down on the carpet of my floor, it's thankfully clean enough to where it's not going to grow. But if I drop that seed in great soil that has all the nutrients and there's sunshine and water, that seed will grow if it's in an optimum function. So the same thought is that if the cancer is in a start, something happens, there's a toxicity or a deficiency that allows that cell, all cancer starts out as a single cell, and it starts with this misregulation. If we can minimize those toxicities and deficiencies and optimize the control of every cell, organ, or cell tissue, organ, and organ system within the body, then we minimize the opportunity for something to happen where there's a niche for the cancer to get out of control, or there is a niche for the virus or the bacteria or the fungus or the yeast to grow out of control and getting out of balance and taking us further away from homeostasis. And so it is about the 5 essentials of healthcare, meaning the max living style of providing and replacing, actually becoming the new standard of healthcare, to where every person is afforded the education and the opportunity to have access to the chiropractic care that allows them to know if they have a breakdown in the structure that's protecting their nervous system, and the information and the mindset to make the choice to make the lifestyle changes. And then the information coming through the 5 essentials about how to minimize the toxicities and the deficiencies through proper nutrition so that we have the building blocks of life to rebuild and regenerate with. Then it's how to give the oxygen and the nutrition to all parts of the body through a proper functioning cardiovascular system, which is oxygen and exercise, one of the other 5 essentials. And so learning that information and how to implement that in your life, and then how to then minimize the toxicity, not only from the nutrition, but from the water that we take in, and from the exposure, to minimizing it through environmental factors and through our cosmetics and the different things that we can do, and how to optimize our ability to detoxify, which we must get back to that. Our exercise is key, right? Skin's the 3rd largest detoxifier of the human body. And so if you're not sweating profusely every day, your minimizing its ability to detox. And then you're not using your skeletal muscle to burn off all those calories, to which 80% of the sugar that's in the bloodstream will be consumed by skeletal muscle. So if you don't use it, you're not burning it off. That puts you at a higher demand on your pancreas, which then wears out earlier. You become diabetic, which then continues to damage the cardiovascular system, which causes the cardiovascular disease to be more complicated, which all that inactivity and all that toxicity causes you to be more likely to be obese, which then you become more and more sedentary. And then with this, why isn't this information absolutely everywhere and the standard of care? Is because healthy people don't buy these things that are being sold to us, or a lot of the other things, and we don't have the use for the pharmaceuticals. And so one of the biggest things that I want to say is that they did research showing that those that exercised 10 minutes or less a week, in other words, the couch potatoes, they were, and again, I might be off by 1% or 2, but because I don't have it right here in front of me, is that they were 200, but I can get it here in front of me. Let's take a look at that slide. And I know I'm going over all my time, and I apologize. Actually, nope, can't blow that up enough. There were those that exercised 10 minutes or less were compared to those that were exercising 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous activity a day, 30 minutes, 5 days a week. When compared to those, the 10 minutes or less were 220% more likely to be hospitalized from COVID-19. Then those that were hospitalized, they were 170 something percent more likely to be admitted to the ICU, and then 146% more likely to die. Where's the commercial on that, America? Ask the question. Where is it that, why isn't the research out there that 75 grams of sugar consumed in a single setting in a 181-pound adult on average suppresses the white blood cell activity by 50% for the next 5 hours? Why isn't that commercial out there, America? Answer the question, those in charge, and then ask the question, America, and demand what we deserve, and that is health care. God bless, and we will see you back here next time on Health, a Second Opinion.